Guruve Gaura Chanjaya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpaturubhischa Kripa Sindhavevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My Dandavat Pranam devotees, this is going to be extremely short. I just left attending virtually the presentation of Sriman Sundara Gopal Prabhu on Bhaktivinoda Thakur regarding whether or not bhakti is inherent in the jiva. I want to say from the bottom of my heart that I thank him so much, because I think it's been the most lucid presentation in regards to what our Guru Vargas intended in the statements regarding bhakti being inherent that I've heard to date. Many times in a feeble way, I've tried to present those arguments, and I think he's given the most lucid and the most complete definition of what it is that our acharyas were saying in this regard. I would highly recommend that, of course, you watch the entire presentation. It's long, but it is very worthwhile watching for anyone who wants to understand clearly the side of our contemporary acharyas descending from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur down, what they meant by the statement, the inherency of bhakti. That said, he was very clear not to present the idea that Swarup Shakti was inherent in the Bada Jiva. I did not ask the question this time on the presentation. I did ask the question previously on the podcast, but someone else asked the question again here, and his answer was excellent. So I think it will do much more than just give a complete description of the conception of inheritance in regard to our acharyas, especially our contemporary acharyas. But I think it will do so much to bridge the gap in terms of parlance, because this has always been my contention, that there's not a understanding of a common parlance that's used in these discussions. Those who argue against inheritancy have a certain conception regarding what inheritancy means, and on our side, so to speak, or on the side of those who've argued about inheritance, there's also been the misconception that the inheritancy is something to do with Swarup Shakti being covered by Maya, etc., etc. So he was very clear to give the proper conceptions regarding all of that, as well as the historical research regarding Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and also bringing out the inyai, the proper conceptions of inheritancy being something related to the locus and something related to intention, right? It's called teleological consideration. And he excellently brought that out. So I highly recommend that you watch it. Again, my biggest takeaway is the hope that it bridges that gap in terms of common parlance. So any future discussions regarding this issue will be on the basis of a common understanding of what was meant on either side. And I think in doing that, it will certainly bring the Vaishnav Mandal together. This doesn't negate those who have very clearly also corrected any misconception about the idea of bhakti being inherent, meaning Swarup Shakti being inherent, which I think really is the crux thing that was always at discussion here. But just because there were so many other words and so forth being used, we never sometimes would get down to that crux issue. And if we did, it would be in a way that was not not helpful in the sense of making it clear that we're really maybe speaking the same language, right? But just we haven't come to common agreement on many of the terms. So I think this presentation was excellent in that manner. I look forward maybe even to future sit-downs with some of the stalwart devotees from both angles of vision on this, and the ability to make the common connection and how much this will help the entire Vaishnav Mandal. There will always be those whose attacks of the Bhaktivinoda Dhara have been malicious attacks. And I think I've said in the past that the genesis of that is not recent, but goes back to the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's dealing with identification of the Apasampradayas and his idea of pointing out the ill behavior of many who were posing as Nirupari Vaishnavas or Babajis back at the time. It was never any generic condemnation of Babajis, etc., or the traditional pariwars. It was a sort of correcting of those things that Bhaktivinoda Thakur witnessed to be inappropriate. On the other hand, I think from some of the traditional pariwars, the unique presentations of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which many of the background elements of why he made those presentations came out in the wonderful presentation of Sundar Gopal, they were attacking that. I'm talking back historically now. But I think, anyway, long story short, and not to make this too long, I think this presentation will go such a long way to maybe heal any wounds, certainly to bridge any gaps of understanding, and it will at least allow discussion going forward, even if there's angles of vision that still need to be synthesized. It will allow the discussion to go forward with a much more informed and enlightened basis. So I'm indebted to Sundar Gopal Prabhu, as well as those who have given solid arguments, sastrically and otherwise, for removing the misconception that Swarup Shakti is inherent and covered by Maya, right? Because for me, that was a very crux issue, right? So I again am expressing my great gratitude and, always praying that Srila Gurudev's blessings will come on Sundar Gopal Prabhu to continue his research and to help be a catalyst in the mixture of all of these things to solidify our Vaishnav Mandal. I saw that there were many stalwart Vaishnavas who were on the phone, many senior Vaishnavas, and that was a good thing to see. So I'm hoping this bears the fruit of some common union. We are the one family of Mahaprabhu after all. So that being said, Vancha Kalapatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvaevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Radhe Radhe.